Thank
Good
you.
evening. We can hear you. We can hear you very well, man.
Thank you very much. My name is Abdulaziz Okia Kendi, and I'll be your host for tonight. So, welcome to another episode of ID Analytics webinar. As you are joining us, please drop your name in the chat box, where you are joining us from, your level in data. Let's get to know you. Please drop your name in the chat box, your level in data, and what you hope to get by the end of this webinar. Let's get to know you, please. Okay. So last session, we had an amazing speaker on board that talked about building dashboards in Excel, which was intriguing and insightful. So today we have another honor speaker, one of its kind. But before I do this, briefly, I would like to talk about ID analytics. One minute, please. So ID Analytics is a data-driven training and consulting platform dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations with the skills and strategies needed to thrive in today's digital world. ID Analytics specializes in core analytics tools such as Excel, Power BI, SQL, and Python, as well as Microsoft Power Platform, including Power Apps and Power Automate. At ID Analytics, we don't just teach data, we help you use it to drive real results. So don't miss out. Please join the link will be dropped in the chat box. Join our community if you haven't done so. And also follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel for amazing content you won't find anywhere else. The link will be dropped in the chat box soon. Okay, thank you very much. The link has been dropped in the chat box. Please follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on LinkedIn and tell your colleagues to join our community. So quick heads up, before we begin, we'll be announcing the winner of our challenge by the end of today's session. So stick around to find out who takes the crown. All right, let's jump in. It's a pleasure to welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Fredrick Nwayanwu. I'm sorry, I'm not sure I got that. Nwayanwu is a senior financial analyst with years of experience in finance, financial modeling, data analytics, and Microsoft Excel. He's a certified advanced financial modeler by the Financial Modeling Institute. He's a certified financial modeling and valuation analyst by the Corporate Finance Institute. He has trained over 1,000 professionals and senior management staff on financial modeling, data analysis, and Excel productivity tips. He has built financial modeling and valuation portfolio projects for companies and startups. He has worked on large financial modeling projects for world-leading organizations, and his hobbies are football, playing football, listening to music, and having fun. It's a pleasure to welcome our speaker. He's a seasoned expert in the field. We are honored to have him today.
Okay. Hi, Kendi. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, very well.
Okay. Hi, Kendi. Thank you very much for that introduction. You now made me look like one Superman with that introduction. So please, I'm one of you. I am also, I'm a learner in the field also, right? So the way you're chasing knowledge is the way I'm also chasing knowledge. And I especially welcome you to today's webinar. I hope that whatsoever you have in mind while coming here, I'll be able to fulfill that. But before I go forward, let me just quickly share my screen. So please confirm when you can see my screen. Please just confirm when if you can see my screen, just type in the chat so I would know you can see my screen and proceed. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I think 3 people in the chat say they can't see my screen. Okay, so welcome once again to today's webinar. Today's webinar is titled Lookup Was Mastering Excel Lookup Functions, right? So that's what we're going to be doing in the next approximately 50-55 minutes. I'm going to take us through as many lookup functions as I can, or would I say the most basic lookup functions that we need. We're going to be looking we're going to be looking through the syntax of all those Excel functions, how and when best to use each of them, right? So let us dive right in. So introduction. Now in this session, we're just this session is just going to outline the purpose of our webinar, which is one, to outline what participants are going to be learning, so knowledge and skill development. In this session, we hope you're going to gain essential knowledge and skills that are needed for the effective use of Excel lookup functions. This webinar is also focusing on mastering data retrieval techniques, or the word I like calling it, which is data querying techniques, like how you query, would I say a database technically, because in Excel we store data on tables, right? So basically that's like our database. And then we're also going to learn business context applications, which is how to apply Excel lookup functions in various business contexts for better decisions making. Now let us look at some of our agenda for today. Due to time, I have just chopped out some, but we're going to go as fast as we can to see how far we can cover today. So we're going to be having an overview of lookup functions. We'll start by providing an we're going to talk about factors of influencing function choice. That what are the factors that influences, okay, if you're going to use VLOOKUP, if you're going to use XLOOKUP, if you're going to use index and match, and so on and so forth. We're also going to be looking at how to compare functions. Now, are you what are the basis for your comparison? Are you comparing for speed? Are you comparing for efficiency, right? Are you comparing for auditability? And then we're also going to be having our hands-on practice. So first off, let us dive right in. Overview of Excel lookup functions. Now, I want to start with this question. In your own words, what are lookup functions? In your own words, just type in the chat, what are lookup functions? In your own words. There's no right answer, no wrong answer. Just tell me what you feel lookup functions are. Okay. Koyum, I hope I pronounced that name properly. Koyum said looking for something. Okay, so Koyum is basically taking the look. Right, you just took the look and then you added ing to make it looking. Okay, Tawhid said they serve as finders. Okay, those are good answers. More, let's keep the answers coming. So this is going to be a very, very interactive section. So please, I would want everybody to be hands-on, right? Okay. Kalatu says specifying data. Okay. So lookup functions. What are lookup functions? Now, basically, in my own words, I say lookup functions are used to reference a cell, right? They are used to reference a cell to match values in another row or column, right? To match values in another row or column and retrieve corresponding value from another row or column. Now, this is very, very important, right? We use it to match values in another row or column, right? And then we retrieve corresponding value from another row or column. Now, what are some of the lookup functions that we have in Excel? What are some of the lookup functions that we have in Excel? Now, I think it's basically impossible, even if many people are saying, okay, this particular function is becoming obsolete, it's becoming outdated. We have function A that has come to, we have one very powerful function that has come to to replace it, right? And it's more efficient and all. You can look up this way, look up that way. I still think it's impossible to talk about lookup functions without speaking about this guy, VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP. Now, VLOOKUP is one of the most commonly used lookup function in Excel, right? VLOOKUP, it is one of the most commonly used lookup function in Excel. What does it do? It searches for a value. Please, I want everybody to listen to this, right? It searches for a value in the first column of a range, right? It searches for a value in the first column of a range. Now, please pick those words. First column, range. I did not say first column of a table, right? I said first column of a range. And it returns a value in the same row from a specified column, right? I'll take that again. VLOOKUP searches for a value in the first column of a range, and it returns a value in the same row from a specified column. Now, why do we call this VLOOKUP? The V in VLOOKUP basically stands for vertical. The V in VLOOKUP basically stands for vertical. Let me bring up a blank Excel worksheet. Now, when we're talking about VLOOKUP, what I just explained now, I said VLOOKUP is searches for a value in the first column. So basically what VLOOKUP is going to do is going to come to an array. Let's say I've given VLOOKUP an array from B to H, right? From B1 to H13. VLOOKUP is going to come to this first column. It is going to search vertically down, right? And then when it finds that lookup value, it is now going to go to what specific column have you told it to go. Then that same row, that is where it's going to move to and pick the corresponding value in the same row. Now, like I said, this is going to be a purely hands-on webinar. Now, sadly, I am not sure, I was not able to share this worksheet before the session, but please rest assured, I am going to share it with the moderator, and I think with my slides too, so you just have access to both of them for further practice and learnings. Now, we said VLOOKUP. What is the syntax of VLOOKUP? What is the syntax of VLOOKUP? If you look at the bottom here, we say VLOOKUP, it is basically asking you for three things, four, if you have to fill in the optional arguments. The first thing it asks you for is your lookup value, right? The first thing it asks you for is your lookup value. Second is your table array. Next, your column index number. And finally, your range lookup. Now, before I start writing this, I want to introduce us to a framework which I designed specifically for this webinar, right? I want to introduce us to a framework, right, which I designed specifically for this webinar, and I call it the CARD framework. The CARD framework, K-A-R-D, CARD framework. Now, this CARD framework, it encompasses all you need to know, right, to perform a successful lookup. And CARD is an acronym, right? CARD is an acronym, which means your K stands for something, your A stands for something, your R stands for something, and then your D stands for something. Now, your K, what your K basically stands for is your key. Your key. Now, what do you mean by your key? Your key is basically your unique identifier. Now, let me give us, sometimes when we talk Excel, people say, oh, Excel is very complex. I can't understand it, right? And my answer has always been, relate Excel to everyday life, because Excel is an everyday life something. Now, when we're talking about key, right? When you walk into a bank, I want to ask you, when you walk into a bank and you say, oh, please, hi, a wrong transaction occurred on my account, right? Or an erroneous transaction occurred on my account. I want to ask you, what is the first thing that the banker or the attendants in the bank will ask you for? What's the first thing that they will request from you? You can just type that in the chat. What is the first thing that they will request from you? Okay, Titilayo says your account number. Your account number. Thank you very much, Titilayo Tawhid Koyum. Now you said your account number. And why is that? Why is that, anybody? Can anybody answer that question in the chat? Why is that? Why would they ask you for your account number? Why would they ask you for your account number? Basically, thank you very much. It is because your account number is your unique identifier. In that particular bank, two people cannot have the same account number, right? Two people cannot have the same account number. Now, that is what our key is, right? That is basically what our key is. Our key is our unique identifier. In Excel term, our key is our lookup value, right? It is what we currently have that we want to query our database with, right? It is what we have that we're going into our database to search with. In our banking scenario, what they have is your account number, right? And they're going to take that account number, go into their own database and fetch out details relating to your account number. In your head, I just want you to think about it like you're filtering a table using one criteria, right? Now, that is basically what our key stands for. Our key, I would say in Excel terms, this is basically our lookup value, right? This is our lookup value. Next that we have is our A. Next that we have is our A. Who wants to guess what A is? Quickly, just guess in the chat. Who wants to guess what A is? Quickly, just guess in the chats. Who wants to guess? Just guess in the chat. Quickly. Array. Okay, Titilayo says array. I knew somebody would say that. Not bad. Who wants to guess? One more guess. Let's move on. One more guess. Okay, Tawhid also said array. Okay. So our A in this instance stands for attributes. Our A in this instance stands for attributes. And by attributes, what do we mean? We basically mean our table or our data headers. What actually defines a column or a row of data, but usually a column, right? I said column or row depending on how your data is structured, but since data is usually structured this way, right, your attribute is what basically defines your column. For example, what defines this column of data going down is this line, right? 6, right? Your row 6, this is your employee ID. It tells you that everything under it is an employee ID. For your location, this tells you what? That everything under it is a location. Same thing for staff name, salary, and age, right? Your A just goes to tell you, right, the attributes. It just goes to explain, okay, that these are the kind of data that you have. The next thing that we have is our R, right? Next thing in our card is our R, and our R stands for return array, right? Our R stands for return array. So let me just call this. This is going to be headers. I just want to set all this. I want to lay the groundwork, right? So that once we start writing our functions and our formulas, it's going to be very easy. Our A attribute, to say this is just basically what? Our table headers. So these are table headers, Let me just open this a bit. And our return array, this is basically the row, or mostly, let me just say the column or area that contains our return value, right? Our R is our return array. That is basically the column or area that contains our return value, right? Which is what we want to return. What column is it on, right? And then finally, this takes us to D. And who wants to tell me what our D is? Very, very simple. Who wants to tell us what our D is? Just type it in the chat quickly. Who wants to tell us what our D is? Who wants to tell us what our D is? Anybody? Nobody's trying. Is it because we got the last one wrong? Come on, let's try. Who wants to tell us what our D is? Okay, our D basically stands for data, right? Our D basically stands for data, right? And this is just our data, the total data that we have, right? The total data that we have. That's basically what our D stands for. So the first lookup function we're going to be looking at today is our same old and our good old what's VLOOKUP or vertical lookup. Our same old VLOOKUP. Now, one good thing about VLOOKUP is once you understand VLOOKUP, it's very easy. Once you understand VLOOKUP, trust me, you understand HLOOKUP, right? Once you understand VLOOKUP, you understand HLOOKUP, because if VLOOKUP is vertical, who wants to tell me what HLOOKUP is? If VLOOKUP is vertical lookup, who wants to tell me what HLOOKUP is? Anybody who wants to tell me what HLOOKUP is? Okay, thank you very much. The answers are flowing in. Horizontal lookup, horizontal lookup, horizontal lookup. Okay, so let us go right out. Let us start out with writing our VLOOKUP. Let us start right out writing our VLOOKUP. Sorry, let me just get it tool up so I can zoom it and then we can all see clearly. Okay, so hopefully this is running in the background and let me test it out. Okay, it's working. Okay, so the first thing here we're going to be doing, I have some exercises. I'm not going to be working on all, right? Like I said, I'll share the file, so you're also going to test it out yourself. Now, we have, to our left, employee data, right? We have employee data for a company called Silver Vessel Limited, right? Silver Vessel Limited. And our employee, the data attributes that we have here is employee ID. We have the location, we have the staff name, we have salary, and then we have the staff age. Now, for our first exercise here, we want to get the name of employee ID SVL dash 50460, right? 50460. And we're going to be using our VLOOKUP. We're going to be using our VLOOKUP. And like I told us, our VLOOKUP just asks us for 3 compulsory arguments, 1 optional argument, right? So once you just see a function argument in brackets this way, in this square brackets, just know that it is optional, right? So the first thing that it asks for is our lookup value, right? Our lookup value. And our lookup value in this case, is our lookup value in this case is our employee ID, which is our key, right? So I'm just going to select it. Which is M8 here. Comma takes me to the next function argument. Now, look at this, right? Please look at this. Pay attention to this. This is table array, right? Not table. It is saying table array. What that simply means is it is whatsoever section that you highlight to VLOOKUP that automatically becomes is table array. I can decide to start from here. I can decide to start from here. But one thing will always guide my selection: the position of my key. If my key is here, if my key is the location, that automatically makes everything going to the right my table array. If my key is staff name, this automatically makes my table array from here. If it is the salary, this automatically becomes my table array. In this case, my table array would start from here because my employee ID has to be the first column in my table array. It has to be the first column in my table array. I can decide to just lock this, even if I'll not be copying it anywhere. I'll just lock it, right? Comma takes me to my column index number. Now, what does column index number mean, right? What does column index number mean? It simply means in the table array, again, in the table array, I have provided VLOOKUP. On what column is my return, right? On what column is my return? Is it on the first column, second column, third column, fourth, or fifth? So please, I want to hear from everybody, right? On what column is my table array? Don't forget, what I am trying to return here is what? The name. I am trying to return my staff name. So on what column is my table array? Fifth column. So let me try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fawaz says fifth column. That's not correct, right? So let me see. Poem says 3. So this is 1, 2, 3, and that is correct. So I have to type 3 here. I have to type 3 here. I'll put a comma. Now, a comma takes me to my last argument, right? My last argument basically asks me, what kind of match do I want? Do I want an exact match or do I want an approximate match? An exact match is if I tell VLOOKUP to please go and look for Peter in that table. If he doesn't find Peter, he's going to come back and tell me NA because I did not find Peter. But if he goes there and he finds Peter, he's going to return Peter's value. That is an exact match. But an approximate match, if I tell VLOOKUP, please go to that table, go and look for Peter. If VLOOKUP goes there and he doesn't see Peter, he's going to say who is closest to Peter? Oh, Paul is closest. And he's going to return Paul's value. In this case, I want an exact match. So I'm just going to type 0, close my brackets, and hit enter. Automatically, I have seen that the person with staff ID SVL 50460 is Grace Aluko. So let me just quickly let me eyeball. This is Grace Aluko's data here. And you can see our staff ID SVL 50460. Now I am going to be doing it here again. For those who don't understand, I'll just be getting the age, right? I am going to be getting the age. So here I'll type out VLOOKUP. Our lookup value in this case is going to be Hassan Abiola because that is our key. That is our key. And I'll put a comma. Next is my table array. So please, everybody, in this case, where is my table array going to start from? Is it going to start from here? Please quickly type in the chat. Is it going to start from here? Is it going to start from here? Is it going to start from here? Where is it going to start from? Because now my key is my staff name. My key is my staff name. Okay, no response, no response. So it is going to start from the staff. Okay, I've gotten my responses now. Thank you so much, everyone. So it's going to start from my staff name. Staff name. That's going to be my table array. I'll log this, put a comma. Next is my column index number. So what I want to return is the age, right? What is the age of the employees below? What is the age? So please, on what column of my table array is my return? On what column? Last column? That would not work. Right? So people are saying 5. Now, don't forget, I reiterated it, right? When you're working with VLOOKUP, you are not looking at the whole table. You are looking at the portion you gave it as your table array. In this case, I gave this guy from here. What that simply means is that my return array is going to be 1, 2, 3. It is going to be 3 here. And I'll put comma. I want an exact match. I'll put 0, close my brackets, hit enter, and I get the age of Hassan Abiola. I can just copy this down using my Control D, right? And I'll get the age for Adamu and Isa. Now, this is your simple old VLOOKUP, right? Simple old VLOOKUP. Now, we've used this, right? We've used this and this works, right? We've used this and this works. Come on, look, we've gotten our values. But then, right? But then, VLOOKUP is a very, would I say, dumb guy, right? VLOOKUP is a very dumb guy because, one, he has a lot of limitations, right? And I'm going to type out his limitations here. If you have a jotter, please just quickly take this down, right? So limitations of VLOOKUP. Limitations of VLOOKUP. Oh, I mistakenly opened the new sheets. Limitations of VLOOKUP. Now, the first limitation is this one. The first limitation is this one, the lookup value. So please, I think somebody is omitted. The lookup value slash key has to, not even has, why am I using has? Let me type it in capital letter. Must be before the return value slash column. This is the first limitation. What that simply means is in this table, I cannot use my age as key to return staff name. It's not possible. If I want to use VLOOKUP, I have to rearrange this table. I have to restructure it and make sure that my age comes before my staff name, right? Now, I think this reminds me of something then when I used to work as a finance officer, right, early in my career. So then there's this monthly report I do at the end of the month, right? Every month, at the end of every month, I just come up with a report. So I download data from our company sites, right? And then I have to analyze it and then send report to management. Then the only lookup function I could use was VLOOKUP. I was very scared of INDEXMATCH. But the way my data was structured, it was not optimal for VLOOKUP to work. So guess what I used to do? Once I download the data every month end, I would sit down, spend my time, restructure my data. I will move columns such that VLOOKUP must work. Whether I likes it or not, it must work, right? I didn't want to spend the time learning a new function. I just said, oh, people use VLOOKUP, so I must use it. And imagine the amount of time I spent every month restructuring data before beginning my analysis. That's because VLOOKUP has a lot of limitations. Now, this is the first limitation. The second limitation of VLOOKUP is this too. You have to manually, no, is it that you have to? Not really. So let me just rephrase, right? It expects you to manually count columns for column index number. VLOOKUP expects you to manually count your columns, right? Oh, so I have this data. I want to count. Here's my return. Is it column 1? Is it column 2? Is it column 3? And then I'll come and hard code it in my formula here, which is 1, 2, 3. What this simply means is if somebody comes here and somebody adds a column, automatically my data scatters. My VLOOKUP scatters, right? That's another limitation of VLOOKUP. 3. If a column is added to your data, added or removed to your data, right? It breaks. VLOOKUP breaks automatically. Now, there's a way that we can circumvent these two, right? You see these two? There's a way we can circumvent it, which is by using match, right? And we're going to see that later on in the session, right? We're going to see later on in the session. Now, we've looked at VLOOKUP. The next function we're going to be looking at now is HLOOKUP. And like I said, once you understand VLOOKUP, you understand HLOOKUP. It is just data orientation. Since VLOOKUP is vertical, HLOOKUP is horizontal. Now, this is what I'm going to let you do by yourself. It is still the same data that we have from the VLOOKUP exercise here, just that I have now changed the orientation, right, to be horizontal. So this is something I'm going to give you as an assignment. Trust me, the syntax is the same, right? The syntax is the same. The only difference is rather than having a column index number, you now have a row index number, right? You now have a row index numbers. Let me just change this to salaries. Yeah, a row index number, and that's what I'm going to leave for you to do. The next that we have, or the next function we're going to be talking about is match, right? The next function we're going to be talking about is the match function. Now, match is a very interesting function. It's also a lookup function, but on its own, right, it can do little to nothing on its own, right? But when you combine it with other lookup functions, then it becomes powerful. Now, what does the match function do? The match function, it returns, the match function returns the relative position of an item in an array. Again, the match function, it returns the relative position of an item in an array. What that simply means is, if I have an item, for example, letter J, and I have this array here, right? I have this array here called letters, right? I have this array spanning from, I think, D6 to D20 with different letters. I can find the position of J relative to this array, I in this array, K in this array. Now, let me do the first one. Match. Match requires just 3 function arguments, 2 compulsory, 1 optional, 3 function arguments. The first thing it asks you for is a lookup value. A lookup value is basically your key. If you remember our card framework, right? It is basically your key, right? It is basically your key. In this case, my key is what? J, which is what I am looking for, right? I am looking for J, comma. Where am I looking for J? I am looking for J in this list of letters here, and I'm going to lock it, right? In this list of letters here, I'm going to lock it, comma. And now, the final thing it asks me for is my match type. Do I want an exact match or an approximate less than or greater than match, right? In this case, I want an exact match. So I'm going to use a 0 for exact match. I hit enter, and automatically it is telling me that my letter J is the 7th in this data I have provided. It is the 7th in this data I have provided. So if I come here and count, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As easy as that. Now, unlike other lookup functions, that their outputs might be letters, it can be numbers, it can be, it's basically what is in that cell, right? The match just returns a number. It returns the position, right? It just returns a position in a list. Returns a position in a list. So this I can just drag down, and it's now going to tell me the position of all these items or all these letters in this list. Here we can see that R is the 14th. So if I come here and count, look at R here. This is R, yeah. R is the 14th. So this is as simple as match is. But it is when you combine match with other lookup functions that it then becomes powerful. And that is what we're now going to be looking at when we talk about index. When we talk about index. Now, index on its own is somehow dumb, right? Like VLOOKUP. But index is a very simple function, right? Index is a very simple function. Now, what does the index do? What does it do? The index returns the value at the intersection of row and column in a given array. Now, let me give you an example. Let me just say I want to get a round between 1 and 20 here. Let me just get random numbers. Right? I think too much. Let me delete this. Yeah. And let me just copy paste this. Now, what index does, right, is if I give index this array of numbers and I tell index, please go to column 2. It's going to come here. Column 2 is going to come and stay here. Row 3 to come from here. So what it's basically going to be doing is it will come from this side and it will be moving. And then the one that have come to column 2 here will also be moving down. Where they intersect, which is here, index will return this value. Index will return this value. For example, let us write a simple index function. I'm going to write index. We have 2 index in Excel, but the most commonly used is the first one, right? If I zoom in here, which is that we have 2 index, but the most commonly used is the first one, and that's what you're most likely to use always, right? The first one. Now, this is index. Index will ask me for an array. I'll give you this array. Let me move this. I'll give you this array, comma. The next thing index is saying is, okay, in this array you've given to me, what row number should I go to? In this case, I will say, please go to row 3, comma. Next thing it asks is, what column number should I go to? What column number should I go to? And in this case, we are going to say, please go to column 2. So it is going to come here. What it's basically going to do here is it's going to come here and it's to keep moving for the row 3, and column will keep moving. And at the intersection, they are going to return what or the value that is in that particular cell. So here I'll close my brackets and I'm going to get 16. I am going to get 16. What if I tell index, please don't go to row 3 anymore, right? Please don't go to row 3. Go to row 2 and go to what? Column 4. Go to column 4. Before I hit enter, please, who can tell me what the answer would be? What would our index return? Please type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. What would our index return? Okay, we are seeing people typing 33333. So let me hit enter and see if that would give us our answer. So here I'll type and we get it 3. You can see already becoming lookup experts, right? You now understand what index does. But then this is inefficient, right? This is highly inefficient because when I say there's no how, right? Sometimes you may have data spanning 1,000 rows, 50, 100 columns. Are you always going to be counting? No. If your boss catches you counting, I don't know if people have stick in the office, but we have stick in our own. They'll just use stick to chase me out. You understand? So there's no way you can always count. And that is where our match function comes into play, right? That is where our match function comes in to play. So I can replace these rows and columns with a match, right? But let me quickly do that with the VLOOKUP before we move on. So here, we still have some part of VLOOKUP we've not solved, right? Where we say want to return salary of employees, right? Salary of employees. I'm just going to demonstrate how you can use match to solve this. So here, I'm going to use VLOOKUP. My lookup value is going to be my employee ID, comma. My table array is going to be the whole of this. I'll lock it fully. So when I copy down, it doesn't move, comma. My column index number, right? Normally, I would come and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I'll come and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll know, okay, this guy, my salary is on the 4th column of my table array. But now I am a big man, right? I now know match. And I don't want to be writing inefficient lookup functions. What I'm now going to do is I am now going to use a match. Let me see. Okay, let me just exit this and let me write this in the formula bar here. Okay, so VLOOKUP. My lookup array is this. Sorry, my lookup value is this, comma. My table array is this, comma. I'm not locking that. Let me lock it. F4 to lock, comma. Now my column index number, for me here, I am now going to introduce a match, right? I am going to introduce a match. And for my match, what am I looking up? Please, if you look at our card, you will notice that we've touched key, we've touched return, we've touched data, we've hardly touched attributes. Now, it is when we use match, that is when we touch our attributes. Whenever I want to use match, that is when we have to talk about our attributes. So in this case, I am going to say match salary. I will lock this to my headers, which are my attributes. Match this to my headers and return an exact match. So for those who are wondering what match will come and do here, match will basically come to this table and it's going to say, okay, since this is my table array, Salary, are you the first? Are you the second? Are you the third? Are you the fourth? Are you the fifth? I'm sharing my screen. Please confirm you can see it. I'm sharing my screen. So it's just going to, are you the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, right? And then it's going to return that number to VLOOKUP, which VLOOKUP will now pick up as my column index number. And I'll put a comma, and I'll say for my lookup, range lookup, please be exact. And I'll hit enter. And voila, this works, right? All things being equal, if I should copy all this down, it should actually work correctly. Now, this is how you use your match to what replace inefficiency. So if I should highlight the whole of this match, you're just going to see that all he's doing is his job, which is his job of returning a number. In this case, that number being 4. That number being 4 because it has come to my table and I said, okay, your salary is on the 4th column of the table you provided. Now, last but not the least today, we're going to be looking at XLOOKUP, right? We're going to be looking at XLOOKUP. Now, Excel has developed or it has evolved, right, over the past years. They've moved from inefficiencies towards replacing inefficient functions with more efficient one. Now, trust me, XLOOKUP is one of the only, or I think it's the major lookup function that you need to know, right? It is the major lookup function that you need to know. Now, just like somebody had already pointed out in the chat, XLOOKUP is XLOOKUP. Yeah, maybe that's how I'm going to describe it, right? It is XLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is vertical, H is horizontal, X is X, right? Cross lookup, you can look up from anywhere. You know, for VLOOKUP, we're saying your key must be in the first column. Oh, XLOOKUP doesn't care, right? Your key can even be in another column, and then your key can be this, and your return will be this. It doesn't care, it's going to pick it up, right? So let us write our XLOOKUP. And trust me, XLOOKUP is one of the easiest functions to learn, right? It is one of the easiest functions to learn. The first thing it asks for you is your return value, or your lookup value. In this case, our lookup value is our order ID, which I'm going to pick out. Sorry, let me just zoom in well so we can see. This is it, XLOOKUP. My lookup value is my order ID, comma. My lookup array in this case is, okay, now you've given me the order ID, which is your lookup value. Please specify where I can find that lookup ID, which is this. For XLOOKUP, you don't have to give you the whole table. Please just tell it where it's. XLOOKUP is like, you know, when they say Nigerians, I don't know if there are non-Nigerians on the call, right? But Nigerians will always say, me, I don't like doing too much. Let me just mind myself. Just give me the one I want to hold the rest. That's XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP is not saying, please give me the whole table. No. It is saying, you've given me lookup value. Tell me, where can I go and find it? Which is what you call lookup array here. It is not saying, fine. After you've told me where to find the lookup value or your key, or you will tell me, where will I return? Please return price. Close brackets, hit enter. And automatically, JJ, it is not saying, no, I will not. It is not saying, give me column number. No. That's because it's just asking you for lookup value, lookup array, return array. Nothing more, nothing less. And it is far more efficient than other lookup functions because in itself, it has the error handler, right? In its own, it has the error handler. So if I put a comma here, you're going to see that it has an if not found argument, right? It has an if not found argument. So it's basically saying, if I don't find what you are looking for in the data you've given me, what should I return? You can just tell it to please return any. But let us just quickly play with it. Let's play around that. So let me say I am looking for 134. Okay, I think if I lock this, let me just do 131,402, right? 131,402, right? And then let me just copy this function down. Let me copy this down. Yeah, this should work. So what if I tell XLOOKUP to now go and look for 131425, which I'm sure is not in my list. It's going to return NA, right? If this were to be VLOOKUP or any other lookup function, you have to add a new function to it, which is our if error, right? You're going to say, please, if the whole of this evaluates to an error, tell me not found, right? You're going to say, please tell me not found. Look at it. I have wrapped everything in an if error. And once I just hit enter, you're going to see that it returns not found. But then this is XLOOKUP. I don't need to do all that. I can just delete the whole of this, right? And I'll come, delete these brackets. And automatically, where I have my if not found, I'll tell it, please, if it's not found, just return not found. I hit my enter, and automatically, I have my answer, right? I have my answer. So that's basically, I think that's basically the long and short of lookup function. So I prepared a slide which I don't even think I use that much, but I'm going to share my slides with you. I'll share it with the moderator and hopefully she can get it across to you. Right, but in conclusion, to be honest, mastering Excel lookup functions is very crucial if you work with data on a day-to-day basis, right? As long as you work with data on a day-to-day basis, mastering lookup functions is what you need. And I hope that at the end of this session, you'll be more confident while working with lookup functions. So thank you very much. I'll take any question you have now. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Frederick. My Oga, as I would say. Thanks a lot. That's an interesting one. Thanks for taking us from the very basics up to where we could get to by virtue of our time. Just so that people are aware, there's still a lot more things that you can do, a lot more scenarios that these are applicable to. But again, essentially sessions like these are just to open our minds to what is possible, so that we use that to then build up our skill set around all of these things that we're talking about. Thanks again, Frederick, for sharing this with us. Very quickly, if you have questions, you can use the raise hand icon, so we are able to take one or two before we move on to something else by virtue of the time that we have left. I see somebody's hand already up. Oliver, please shoot. If you have questions after Oliver use the raise hand icon, we are able to take maybe one more before we start to push to close. Oliver, over to you, please.
Okay, good evening. Thanks, ID Analytics, and thanks, Fredrick.
Yes, good evening. Yes,
okay, so my question is, I noticed that when Mr. Fredrick was using the XLOOKUP, the VLOOKUP, the HLOOKUP, the INDEXMATCH for the table array, it didn't start from the table headers. So if eventually I start with the table headers, what will happen? That's my first question. And my second question is the other argument on the XLOOKUP. So what do we use them for? I think it did not use it in this webinar. So,
Okay. Thank you very much, for, Oliver, for your question. So I would say, firstly, when I was using the VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and all, yeah, rightly so, I did not highlight the headers, right? So one, the reason I don't do that, would I say, is habit. And why did I make it a force of habit not to always highlight the headers? Because one, I think I don't really need them, except I am using a match where I have to match the headers. Then I'll do that separately in my match. And why do I do that? Sometimes in my line of work, you sometimes work with very big models, right? You sometimes build very big models, and as much as possible, speed, right? Calculation speed is of importance. So I want to give my functions as little as I can to calculate. Don't forget, if you're using VLOOKUP, VLOOKUP will have to come through each of your data down. It's coming down. So the longer it is, the larger the time it takes to calculate. So if I know that I don't want it to iterate through this guy, I just keep it. You understand? And just give it my data body, right? Just go through. That's one. So secondly, the XLOOKUP, due to our time, right? Due to our time, that was why I just limited the XLOOKUP to what we need. It is something that you can always play around and you can always also research on. So here we have the if not found. One of the function arguments we have here that we didn't look at is if not found. Next is the match mode, right, which we looked at in part when we talked about VLOOKUP, and then also is the search mode, right? Search mode is how you want it to search. You want it to search from first to last, from last to first, right, or binary search, right? All those things are things you can what do you call it now, things you can research on. Don't forget, I said I want to give my VLOOKUP or my lookup functions or my functions in Excel as little as possible for them to process, because I'm also trying to save time, right? And then, like I said, XLOOKUP has it has been optimized a lot. So that is why this search part, right? This search mode is also very important, because maybe I'll just leave it to do the research on binary search, how it works, and then first to last. But those are ways of making sure that your XLOOKUP does not have to go through large chunk of data. I can just break it down and then get the data or get your answer as soon as possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Fredrick. Henry, would you want to go very quickly, please? Henry, are you here with us? You're still muted in case you're speaking already. I still can't hear Henry. I see your mic is open already, but I can't hear you. Philip, please shoot.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Go on.
Okay. My question is during the presentation, we're using there's a word lock. So why do we have to lock when we are doing the lookup? And there is this dollar sign I see each time he locks the stuff. That's my question.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip, for your question. I anticipated that somebody will ask that, right? So it's basically, how would I explain it now? It is referencing in Excel, right? Referencing techniques in Excel, and we have three different types that can be broken down into four, right? So 4 different types of referencing: the absolute, the mixed, the mix can be broken down into row constants or column constants, and then we have the relative cell reference. Now, although that is not in the scope of what we are doing in this webinar, but you can always just search out resources. There are a lot of resources out there speaking to references, and then you can also maybe send me a message on LinkedIn. I would share resources with you to guide you on that.
Thank you so much. Henry, are you able to speak now? Just so that I don't skip you entirely. I honestly still can't hear you. Fredrick, is it just me? Just so I confirm.
No, I can't hear you. But also, so before we move on, let me just quickly clear one misconception. So please, ID Analytics, Mr. Musin or Oga Musin is not, I'm not his Oga, it's my Oga. So we don't leave this place with the mindset that Mr. Oga is not happening anywhere. He's my boss. Sometimes pay me salary.
That's still the mindset you're ready
to.
Yeah, you're still the boss. So let's leave it out. Let's roll with it. Okay, so thank you so much, Fredrick, for your time. We so much appreciate the time you spent with us. Before we begin to wrap up, I see some of my other bosses on the course. Victor, thanks so much for being a part of this webinar. Thank you for attending. Thank you for being a part of us. I see Babatoko on the call, and also for other persons. Thank you so much for joining us. So last webinar that we had, just for the sake of those that were not there. So we had on our webinars at ID Analytics, we have them bi-monthly. So every second and the last Saturday of the month, that's when we have our webinars. And essentially we are trying to just bring closer to us some of the things that we probably would need in our day-to-day activities when working with data. So we also welcome us to suggest topics. So there will be a form that will be shared on the community. And again, if you're not yet part of the community, please, we'd like that you join the community. So you're part of the conversations that go on the community, and so you can contribute to whatever we are discussing as well. So we have a handful of topics already, and we are looking towards bringing some of our seasoned professionals to come on board to discuss, to give expositions to some of those topics, so that we do not have to, by our own self, begin to strive around getting to gather this knowledge ourselves. So last webinar that we had, it was on report building with pivot tables, and we had a challenge that followed that particular webinar, and essentially it was for people on the community to try to replicate what the facilitator did on the live call. We got a number of submissions. If I'm correct, will be about 8, something around 10 submissions, if I'm correct. And from there, we had the team at ID Analytics. They reviewed the submissions, and they've come up with 3 winners from that particular challenge. So now, very quickly, I'm just going to roll through this. The prizes, whatever. Thanks a lot, Sir Victor. So the prizes, whatever they will be getting, that conversation will continue on the group. But just so we know, on the 3rd position, we have Sheyi Solomon. Sheyi Solomon came 3rd based on the rubrics, everything that was put together in grading the submissions that we got. Well done, Sheyi. It was quite tight because the scores were pretty close to one another, so it was a bit difficult for us to get this out. But with some margin, we had Sheyi as the 3rd. In the 3rd place. And the 2nd place, we have Giwa Titilayo. I think Titilayo is also on this call. I've seen a couple of comments from her today. I'm hoping Titilayo is a female, actually. So well done, Titilayo. Well done, great work on that. And the winner is Azubuike. I guess I pronounced that correctly. Azubuike, thank you so much. And we really do appreciate every single person that put in the effort to participate in this. It wasn't mandatory. It wasn't it wasn't mandatory, but again, we just wanted a sort of a follow-up so that whatever we are learning on webinars like this, we're able to put them to use, and we are not just piling up knowledge like somebody would say. So you're learning and then you're able to put them to use, so eventually when you need to use them, they come in better handy because you've used them somewhere. So thanks a lot to everybody. The winners, again, we'll continue the conversation on the group. Thank you to everybody who has attended this episode of our webinar. This is the 4th one. Thanks a lot for being a part of this. And thank you to our facilitator again, Fredrick. Thank you to the team at ID Analytics for all of the back work to ensure that this comes to us in smoothly, I would say. And thank you to all of our facilitators who have been a part of this, and those that would also be joining us in the subsequent ones. Till we meet again, 2nd Saturday of the month, by God's grace. Let's do enjoy the evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.